You ready, Brian? Okay, we're here for an interview with Chris Mann, the Republican nominee for the 1st Congressional District. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your biography, where you were born,
Okay.
where you grew up, what you've done for a living, and then we'll talk about issues and why you're in the race.
All right. Well, I'm born in Portland, Oregon, and I actually grew up here in Northwest 25th until 1st grade. And then my parents bought their first home over in North Portland. And I went to Jefferson and Benson High School, graduating in 1981. I joined the military in 1984, served until 89. I was out of the service for 15 years, and after the events of 9/11, I felt a calling to go back in the military. And I did 16 years in the Oregon National Guard and deployed twice to the Middle East. And just retired March 31st of this year.
So your National Guard service for those 16 years, was that full-time?
We're fully active, but I wasn't all the time on the clock, I guess. Yeah.
So what were you doing to...
I've done sales, I've done Uber. When I returned from Iraq in 2010, that was right after the big housing market crash and all the issues that went on, and so I started college at 47 and ended up graduating with a master's in business and a bachelor's in psychology.
Okay. And are you currently employed or are you retired?
Right now I'm just driving Uber and Lyft while I'm campaigning, because it gives me the freedom to get out there and do the things I need to do.
Okay.
How is that right now? Is it good?
It's still very busy.
Is it?
But they've only given us a 55-cent gas surcharge fee. It's costing me about $30-some more a day for fuel, so it's rough.
What kind of, your National Guard service is obviously a big part of civic engagement or service. What else have you done in the community in terms of civic engagement?
I've been a member of Rotary. I was a Master Mason. I was a youth group, DMLA, where I was a state leader, and we used to travel to the retirement homes and sit around with the elderly people and go out and do community service. And then I run a veteran nonprofit that I'm the executive director of for the last 9 years. And we just got our confirmation this week that we will be again distributing 100 meals and toys for kids for 100 families this year.
Okay. Have you run for office before?
Never have.
What compelled you to run this time?
I guess two things. One, I feel God called me to do this just like he did when the events of 9/11 happened. And also I'm very outspoken, but I've always believed if you're going to speak up and complain about things, you should get up and do something about it. And so I figured if I'm going to complain and want change done, then I should be the one to go out and try to encourage it to happen.
Have you been active in the Republican Party locally, or?
I have not. I have not. The only thing I've really done was go down to the state capitol and fight for veteran benefits and rights and things like that down there, but I've never been a party person, to be honest, because Truth and Transparency is my campaign. I actually went out and knocked on doors for Obama's campaign during his first election.
Okay. Okay. Were you a Democrat then, or?
I was a registered Democrat, yeah.
What led you to change your party affiliation?
I would say just recently, within the last few years, just seeing how the cost of living and all these problems that are going on. And originally, I never was involved with politics. My family never talked about it. I went to Jefferson High School. We were the Jefferson Democrats. So when I turned 18, I was like, I guess I'll be a Democrat. But I've always voted who I thought was best communicating to the people.
Okay. Was there a specific, you said you felt a calling, but I'm wondering if, and you mentioned inflation and so on, any other issue that's sort of really burning within you that caused you to want to get into this race?
Well, living in Portland, just watching the homeless issues around here, and it's grown from the time we'd see a few people on the side of the street on Burnside to growing up where there's tents all over the city, watching cars being stolen, catalytic converters being ripped away from cars, the rise in crime, and we can go on and on and on.
What do you think the policy prescription for that is?
Well, one is we need to really support our police again and get them back out there. If police are driving around neighborhoods and they're out there being involved in the community, it's gonna be a little harder to lay underneath the car and rip out a catalytic converter or break a window and jump in and steal a car. And people will feel a little safer, getting out.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the big issues. And the other is, to be honest, our district attorney is failing us. You can't just we're letting repeat offenders back on the street.
Yeah, that's kind of those are both kind of local functions. The Portland Police Bureau obviously is a city function. The district attorney is a county official. You're running for Congress, so what is the congressional role in those two areas?
When I've sat and met with other politicians, they keep talking about funding of the police, and it's going to be hard to decide how to come up with federal funding for local police, but I think we can support from a federal level, whether it be maybe putting federal officers in different states, in the bigger cities, to help support, so that if they're committing larger federal crimes, then we can prosecute from a federal level. I know that Senator Tim Scott has some legislation on there for police reform. And I talked with Mike Reese, and one of the issues federally is we don't have the same standards across all the different police forces. Like the no chokehold here in Portland. We've had that for almost 20 years, I think. He said, but some states still allow chokehold. So across the country, we need to have the same police standards. So I think that's one thing we could do federally, is work on getting the standards around the country.
Okay. Unfortunately, we didn't get you in the room at the same time as your opponent, the incumbent.
That was all my fault, but
That's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything in her record that you would point to that you particularly disagree with?
What I would say is that I think when she originally got into the Congress, I think she had some great intent, but I think like a lot of politicians, she's got pulled into the radical side in the agenda now. And her record shows she's voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi. She's voted 98% with the party. And we are too separated as a country. We're too separated as political parties. And we need to get into the middle and be able to talk about issues and come to the center. Because every value, every instance we're talking about now is always the extreme side. No matter what it is, they go to the most extreme level on the left, most extreme level on the right. And so she supported all these things. She voted to go ahead and allow with the Nord Stream 2 expansion by Putin. She's had the opportunity to stand up and speak up about the problems at the border, but she's been silent. And that's one thing I will never do. If there's problems, I'm going to speak up about it, whether the Republicans have caused the problem, the Democrats have caused the problem, whatever it is. You have to get up and speak up and support the people.
Okay. One of the things we look for in candidates is independence, and you just talked about the need for people to work together and to come to the middle instead of standing at the extremes. So you're now, you told us you've been a Democrat, you're now a Republican. So where would you say that your current thinking or your policy ideas are different from sort of the Republican Party line or the Republican platform?
I think it again goes to the extremes. Is we can talk about one of the biggest issues a lot of people are talking about is the abortion issue. When Republicans talk about it, they always say, well, we can't allow babies to be aborted in the 9th month. What about the rest of the time, And then some are saying, what was it? I'm going to forget his name. Came out and said we should have no abortions, period. Try to get that passed. And that was ridiculous.
Lindsey Graham.
Thank you, Lindsey Graham. And on the Democrat side, they keep saying we got to protect a mother's health and chance of them dying because of the birth. Well, nobody's standing up against that. We all support that. But again, you need to come back down from the extreme side.
So as a Republican, are you in favor of some level of abortion, some abortions in some cases?
Yes.
What cases?
Well, again, the life of the mother, I've worked on the words. I typed it up a couple of times the other day. When the baby's outside of the
An ectopic pregnancy.
Thank you, man. See, I'm glad you're here. Absolutely. I mean, those shouldn't even be within question. Nobody should ever question that. If they do, then they need to check their
What
morals.
about first trimester? I mean, that's.
I think that, and I put it in a recent poll from another company that asked me to put my opinion on that, and I believe that if we're going to have a place called Planned Parenthood, it should be Planned Parenthood and not planned abortion. That's all they're really there for. We need to have, at least let the mothers go in, hear the ultrasound, talk to somebody who can support them and say, this is what we're going to do. Here's some programs that can help you because you're in a very, very tough situation right now. But give them the opportunity. Let's let them walk into a door and say, I want an abortion, and say, okay, great, let's go get it. So I think that it still should be an option for the mother, but she should have resources before making that decision.
Okay. So you sounds like the longest experience in your adult life was your connection first with the military full-time and then with your connection with the Oregon National Guard. I'm wondering what you took away from that military experience, both your full-time and your National Guard experience.
One is I relate to a lot of people and explain to them when I ordered food for the military, say for the National Guard, we would get scrutinized for $1,800 worth of food purchases for 2 days. That's what we're allotted. And it goes through so many checks and balances. Yet the government can write a check for $1 billion, but where's the scrutiny? Where's the checks and balances? Where's the oversight? So it's not very balanced when it comes to the importance of the amount of money. And I think we need more government oversight. We really got to stop this crazy spending and seeing where the money's actually going. Because we know it's going somewhere, but where is it going?
So what was your role in the National Guard?
I did logistics, so I was in charge of moving people, ammunition, food, what you name it. We had to move it, we had to take it around different places, supply it to all the soldiers. Emergency needs, we had to work with that. I dealt with contractors from Turkey, Iraq, the Philippines, and Nepal. They all had contracting companies on the bases. And so my job was to turn around and meet with them, become friends, create relationships, and then get them to either do some work or supply things that we couldn't order. When you're overseas, I can't call up AT&T, or not AT&T, but like a Xerox company. I can't order the Xerox straight from Xerox. I have to go through one of the contractors. So it was going around and talking to them and making these relationships. And the contractors from Turkey liked me so much, they actually built 2 dugouts for the softball field for free, just because they liked us so much, and I did so much business with them. So actually when the guys were out there in Iraq and it was 110 degrees, we had full covered dugouts and the whole deal, and it was just my ability to make those kind of relationships.
Have you worked in logistics in the private sector?
I ran the warehouse actually at Memorial Coliseum when I was 19 years old. I ordered all the food for the Blazer games, the hockey games, and the conventions there. I started off selling peanuts and popcorn and walking around the crowd and throwing the peanuts and all that kind of stuff.
And you ended up running all that food?
Yeah.
So but you haven't stayed in that business? It seems like a really good, with Amazon and all the deliveries and so on, it seems like a natural fit for you after your military experience.
It would be. I also worked for 17 years in the beer and wine industry, so I worked for Columbia Distributing, Miletus, Mount Hood, and 7-Up before they went bankrupt. So I understand it.
Were you a rep, or what did you do?
I did sales, and I was a merchandising manager. Yeah, so I've done a little bit of everything out there. I do understand it. But I think it'll also help when we talk about our supply chain issues in this country and some of the problems that are going on.
So have you said you haven't run for office before, and you're taking on a well-financed, entrenched incumbent in a district that has a large Democratic majority. Thought about running for a different office at all?
I was asked that question when I had announced that this was going to do. I don't want this to be a career. Like I said, I need to get up and stand up for the people. So I'm not going to run for a city councilman for 2 or 4 years and then go up to legislation at state for another 4 or 6 years and then go federal. That's creating a whole other career, and that's not what I want to do. I want to get in and I want to make an impact, and I want to hopefully, use whatever I can and my skills that I was blessed with to get us back to the days of the 70s and 80s when they could argue on the floor of the House or the Senate, wrap the gavel, and go across the street, drink wine, have dinner, and maybe make a concession over there and come to decisions. But those are the things we need to get back to.
Okay. You guys have other questions?
No.
Okay.
What was it that when did you switch parties to become a Republican, and why was that?
Well, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, I just signed up for the Democrat Party because I never was talking about politics as a family. And then before I was even deciding to run for an office, I just really am very unhappy with the 2-sided legal system right now, whereas it's not equal. we don't want to get into too much talk about how this person got away with that and this person didn't get away with this, but it just was too much. And then I do believe that there is a attempt to create this new world order. They've talked about it on the international floor, and I think that the Democrats that are the extremists are the ones that are pushing for this agenda here.
Wait, a new world order of...
When it comes to the currency, when it comes to one big government across the whole entire scape. It was at the, if you give me a second, it'll come to me again. It was at the World Economic Forum, and the one lady speaker up there, she said, the good news is that all the elites of the world agree on what we want to do, but the problem is that people don't trust us. And Joe Biden twice has said, we're on a great path right now, and we're going to get the new world order. We're going to lead that movement. That's just scary to me.
So would that be... Is that just saying sort of like all these technocrats agree, or is it saying, are you imagining that they want to have some kind of leader of the whole world?
The elites of the world want to run and make all the decisions. It's people are going to say, oh, it's conspiracy theorists, but when you keep hearing this, people talk about it over and over again, and you watch the destruction of the dollar and trying to turn our government into a cryptocurrency. Those things are not going to be good for the people. It's going to be control of our money. And,
more control if you had crypto.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What did you think of January 6th?
Violence is never an answer. I think, the intent in the beginning was just to protest and speak your voice. And whatever prompted people to walk in the front door and then start breaking windows to climb in, there's never okay. That's not okay. I'm glad that they've addressed it, and they are addressing it, because we didn't address it here in Portland. When you had federal officers inside buildings, and they were boarding up the doors and throwing Mai Tai cocktails and setting the buildings on fire. We didn't address those kind of things here.
You mean we didn't have like a reckoning where we figured out who was to blame?
Right, and Eric Schmidt just kind of threw away the charges and was like, oh, well, here's 1,100 charges, we just won't prosecute. But those were people's lives that were in danger inside there, and they were, I don't think they were ever given any justice.
Okay.
We have one question that we're asking all candidates, not just you.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird question, but
It's supposed to be fun.
It's all good.
so imagine for a second that the world were going to come to an end tonight. And you could only eat or drink one thing as your sort of last taste on this earth. What would that one thing be?
One drink.
Or food.
Oh.
So, for some people it's a ribeye steak.
Man.
One person said, tuna sushi. We've had
Glass of Jack Daniels.
sour cherry dumplings.
Wow.
2 lasagnas.
Yeah.
3, maybe 3.
A couple pizzas.
Yeah.
3 pizzas.
Yeah.
I guess I would just have to try to think like what the most expensive, obscure thing I never could afford to eat on myself. Maybe a giant tomahawk steak, or a 32-ounce lobster tail, something that I couldn't afford to pay for myself.
All right. Well, it's really great of you to come in.
Yeah, thanks for...
No, I appreciate the extra time. I do. Yeah.
Sorry we couldn't get you in with Bonamici, but
Yeah, what happened? Do you have a thing?
No, in my head it was 10-10 at 10. And in my head I put 10-10-10 Tuesday. And so I was thinking Tuesday morning, so I emailed out on Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. So I emailed out Monday and said, everything's still good for tomorrow. And then I got the response back like, that was today. And that was the opportunity I was looking for, because she won't talk with me on KATU. Actually, they didn't even invite me. Once she said she didn't want to do it, they didn't even invite me to do a debate with her. And Lars Larson, which I understand, she would have a harder time with Lars Larson, trying to corner her. I don't think that's a very neutral ground, but she refused that as well. So this was the one time to sit there face to face with her, but it was totally my fault. I got to take up for my mistakes, but
yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, it's great to meet you.
All right.
yeah, thank you very, very much.